Welcome back to the 2 Months Hockey Podcast, presented by Boston Pizza in South Common. I am your host, Joshua Marshall, and our guest. It's almost been 3 years to the date. The last time he's been on with us was January 31st, 2022. He is the founder. He is also a great guy, a great hockey guy. He is the founder of APNA Hockey. We have Lali Toor. Lali, how's it going?
Josh, nice to be back. I know
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like it's been 3 years because we always text and talk all the time, right? So
yeah.
it,
It's just
it
weird.
actually shocked when you told me. It kind of shocked me. I didn't
I
realize
know
it.
we were talking about this a
3 years.
couple of weeks ago, and then even at the mental health event that we had, it was yeah, it's been a while that you've been on, and I just did a double check before we hit record because I know it's been a while, but the exact date is almost 3 years to the date, as this episode will end up dropping on January 29th. But yeah, no, it's good to have you back. As people don't know too, the APNA Hockey won the Willie O'Ree Community Hero Award back in 2022. So you guys have done a lot in the community to give back, and it is good to have you back on. I know you guys do work with other NHL organizations as well too. But I guess how are things? What's new and exciting? I know you got engaged, so that's kind of something that's going to be busy this summer, and
Yeah,
you're growing the beard in. You got the playoff beard mid season
the
right
playoff
now too.
beard is a
So
little early. Yeah. You know the funny thing is, Josh, the wedding and reception land right at the start of I think Stanley Cup week.
no way.
So
Yeah,
yeah, so like the wedding and everything will be here at the JW. So it might get crazy, man. Like
especially if it's the we got a repeat of last year, right? So
exactly, right? Like I mean, I learned a lot from last year's playoff run to pace myself. Like it definitely there was no pace last year, but like this year with the wedding happening, and if they make the final, man, it's gonna be a zoo down here. Like I got so many guests coming down, right, from the league, from yourself. Like I have so many friends and family coming down for this, and like it would be a pretty unique situation if the Oilers make the Cup final,
yeah,
and we kick off the wedding week with a Stanley Cup final game or something, and like everyone gets to see how how the city kind of comes out for these events.
yeah, 100%. It's been good. Obviously, yeah, we were just watching the Caps and the Flames game here at that just finished a tough loss, for the Flames, 3-1. But hey, the Washington Capitals, friend of the pod, and Mitch Love, the assistant coach, he runs the back end. They're humming, and Spencer Carberry has that team going too. He's the head coach, and Ovi's chasing Gretzky, and they just got a really good group over there. Kind of, I know you're watching that game too. What was your thoughts of that game and what it has been of the season so far for Ovi in the chase? Because you were texting me, he's like, when you see him score, the little kid comes back out in you, Lolly.
Yeah, yeah, he does. I grew up idolizing Ovi right when he broke into the World Juniors back when I think he was 16 at the time, 15 or 16. And like when he had, I'd never seen a player, with that kind of style, right? He had the yellow laces hanging out from the pants, the flop on his skates, the tinted visor, and just his energy. Like that's really what kind of drew me into the player. And then from there, like just been a huge fan ever since. And obviously, been watching the Caps for a very long time. Right from when Alex Seven used to be on his team. I think Alex Seven still has one of the nastiest wrist shots I've ever seen.
Yeah,
And like with Mike Green, I mean, back in the day, like he scored like what over 70 points, which was insane for a D man back in the day, and he broke 30 goals. Like that was a big moment for
it's
D-man
huge.
back in the day. And now you see it like Kale's here, you see Werenski, like every other,
He is doing it
defenseman,
now. Yeah,
he's putting up 60 points now.
yeah, yeah. A couple of years ago, Carlson had like 101 or whatever
Yeah.
for the San Jose Sharks before he got traded to the Penguins. But yeah, it's crazy, just
Yeah,
crazy.
like it just seems like the league, I mean, just seeing the Caps from back in the day and now how they are today, obviously it's a completely different situation. But ever since they won the cup, I think the Oilers, the Caps themselves have done such a good job to develop that talent. They got McMichael. He's on pace for over 30 goals. There's quite a few players on their team that are on pace for over 30, 35 goals
Yeah, yeah. I know
and
they have.
20 goal campaign. So I mean, there's a lot of credit to be had for the Washington Capitals to construct this team. And in an era where Ovi's now chasing the great one, like he's got a team that's at the top of their game, at the top of the league when it comes to the standings, and he's got a solid shot at cracking the goal record this year, right? And who could have thought? Like when Crosby and Ovechkin broke into the league, I mean, the comparisons between Crosby and Gretzky were synonymous, right? Like it's like Sid the Kid was going to be the next one, and Sid has had and I didn't like Sid growing up, by the way. So I had that rivalry. Like now I respect Sid so much and what he's done for the game and how he plays the game and how he operates himself and just so much class with that player. But when it's all said and done, like out of Gretzky's big three records, Ovi is gonna be breaking one of them, which no one thought was ever possible.
No, no, for sure. I just think it's amazing that the durability, and obviously if he didn't have that broken leg this year, he probably would have broke the record, if not closer to it now than he was before. But yeah, he's gonna get it, and if it's not this year, it'll be early next year. But there's still a lot of hockey left, and all it takes is those guys to get on a little bit of a run, and they start feeling good again. And got nothing tonight, but he will get there at some point, and we know that. It'll be fun to watch and ceremony, and obviously I think as it gets closer, when he's like one or two away, that years. I would hope maybe Wayne Gretzky's kind of at the arena at the same time
Yeah,
watching. It's kind of cool. I was saying this on the podcast before, but if you actually look, his stick is not branded. There's no brand to a stick. It's a crowbar. It's just a black
really.
hockey. Yeah, it's a black hockey stick.
Well, he didn't put a brand on it this
Oh
year.
no, he makes his own sticks. So like I guess like when that goes in the Hockey Hall of Fame, when it obviously it will, it's just gonna be.
A
And I get
blank
the
stick.
comment, the crowbar. I get that from
Yeah.
Jeff Merrick because that's what he said. He's just like, there's just gonna be a
You
crowbar.
know,
It's just gonna
you
be.
know what he should do with the blanks? He should be like, well, whoever wants to pay me the most, which company wants to pay me the most for those set of games when he's gonna break the record, hey, bring it in. Right?
CCM will probably take credit for it because he's got the CCM gloves and the CCM skate.
Yeah. He's got the CCM deal.
Yeah,
But
so but we'll see. The stick is just it's a black hockey stick with nothing on it besides his name. So it's like,
hey,
oh,
imagine if, like I know Easton is with Bauer, but like, Bauer comes in, he's like, yo, like, let's bring the Z bubble back.
yeah,
We break the record in the Z bubble.
exactly. Yeah, it's just crazy, but no, good for him. And obviously, yeah, Jacob Trickern, that was a big move to get him there, and Matt Roy, so they're back in as solid as it can be, and it's good hockey. Like it's just the
Yeah.
way that the way they play. It's paced, it's offensive, it's fast, it's aggressive too, and yeah, they're at the top of the league for a reason. And I don't think many people would have had that on the bingo card just because they got swept against the Rangers last year. They were minus 37 goal differential going into the playoffs last year, and that's pretty unheard of to have that. And what a contrast! And at the end of the day, it's you got two great goaltenders. Logan
Yeah.
Thompson just got
Thompson,
signed to it.
what a story Thompson is.
Yeah,
I was just reading up on that
yeah.
today.
So
Like,
that's an Elaine Wall client, and we're friends with the RSG group um, here in Edmonton, and well, they're out of Las Vegas, but Elaine Wall used to be out of St. Louis, moved to Vegas, but great agency, just and as they all are. I think all these agencies are good. That's the reason why they do what they do for the players. But Elaine Waugh is used to be a former goalie and represents a lot of goaltenders in the National Hockey League, and Logan
okay.
Thompson one of them. And so good to see when a guy gets paid, and I think it's a good fair deal. It's under $6 million. It's a 6 year deal.
Mhm.
What he's doing, I think it's good. He's got a Stanley Cup ring, and yeah, really good there to kind of see that, and we'll see where things go down the road
Yeah.
in terms of that.
And
You want to
Josh,
jump on that? Yeah.
you did mention Ovi's durability, and I think I kind of want to comment on that because like it's his longevity and the durability, right? Like, I mean, it's just the consistency. And like, I know that you're a big Toronto Maple Leafs fan and obviously a big Austin Matthews guy, but like, Austin Matthews is probably one of I mean, since Ovechkin, he's probably one of the most prolific scorers I've ever seen,
Yeah.
right? That score at that pace. But I mean, scoring at a pace is one thing, but then you need the longevity side of it as well, right?
Correct.
And that's such a key thing, right? With health, with how you keep yourself in shape and your durability throughout an 82 game season. And that's where it's like, wow, like Ovi's been doing this for how long? Almost 20 seasons like this.
Yeah, no, for
Yeah.
sure. And
It's
he
like,
probably has a couple more years left in him too. Like, like
yeah,
I don't think just because he gets the Gretzky record, it's he calls it quits after next season. I doubt it. I'd be
I hope he goes for 1,000, to be
yeah,
honest.
I hope so too. Like why can't he play at that pace for a couple more years, right?
Especially given where the league is at with the scoring, right? It's not 06, 07 anymore, right? Where, goals are hard to come by.
Yeah,
You're seeing so much scoring nowadays. And I think the way that the team is built, Ovechkin doesn't need to, he doesn't have as many responsibilities on the team,
yeah,
right? He's focused more on what he wants to do and, get those goals. And he's doing a really good job at just dialing into what he's good at, right? And it's not more of a complete game, but he's got a whole team around him for that.
yeah. You got that.
Yeah.
You were at the Oilers game last night. Let's get to our Oilers report, sponsored by our
Yeah.
friends at Shadified Salon and Barbershop. They got the 3 locations here in Edmonton. Tell them that the Two Months podcast sent you, and you guys will get hooked up. Yeah, where are you at with the Oilers right now? Like, I know there's some talk with Evan Bouchard, struggling, and I know I was listening to Bob Stauffer earlier on Oilers Now with Elliot Friedman, and he said sometimes on most nights, Bouchard is maybe the Oilers' fourth best defenseman, and had that great year last year, and what he's been able to do in the playoffs. There's a open spot on Team Canada for the Four Nations, so we'll see where things go there if he ends up replacing Petrangelo, or it's a right shot defenseman, so probably gonna look for a right. It looks like Drew Doughty will get probably 6 games to kind of get his feet under him. To maybe Hockey Canada might add him there, but
Peter's another guy that they're looking at.
yeah, for sure. So there's a lot there, but you watch the Oilers a lot. You're at a lot of their games, and where are you at with them? And Stauffer also put out the tweet since November 9th. They've just been humming along, Lali. So
Yeah.
it's pretty good.
Yeah, it just seems to be like at the start of the season, it seems to be a very slow start. I mean, you could, point the finger at, the late playoff pushes over the last couple of seasons, for that slow start. But I mean, I wasn't too at the start of the season, I wasn't too worried about that. I mean, obviously they did lose quite a few players, with Holloway and Broberg leaving, right? But at the same time, um, I think that as a group, when you have a group that's been through that much over, a period of time, they're going to figure out their game eventually, right? And that's where, like, having good leadership within the team, good coaches, making sure that these new players that are coming into the team also are up to date, right? You can't have, obviously, like, it's a little rough to start at the start of the season, but I always had hope that they're going to figure it out. And yeah, as you alluded to, like, since November 9th, they've been pretty dominant with the way they have been playing. Especially that I think it was the Avalanche game I was watching, Josh. Like, down 3-0 after I think the first or early second, and them coming back, right? I mean, that shows the resiliency and kind of like the fight. And I think that's, those types of games are the ones that you want to be winning, right? With against like Avalanche, against Vegas. I think we'll be seeing them play the Jets here pretty soon as well. And I think it's just a matter of time. Like, I did pencil in my cup final to be a rematch from
Yeah,
last year. I certainly do think with the moves that that are happening out on the East with Ranton and now going to Carolina, I still think Florida still has a lot of that the system in place to kind of compete at that level. But I mean, I do have the Oilers winning the Stanley Cup this year.
yeah,
And I said that, and the funny thing is, I actually said that last year about Florida during the playoffs. I was on radio, and on the spot, I was asked, like, who do you think is going to win the cup? And I was like, I do believe it's going to be the Florida Panthers, just because they had a taste of it the year before, and they weren't the healthiest, right, Josh, against Vegas. And it's that taste that you get. Either you rise to the challenge, or you let it crumble you,
yeah,
right? That's a lot of pressure, right? And then I think that's what kind of separates, the average NHL player between great NHL players is understanding that pressure and rising to that challenge, right? And I think the experience that they had last year, as much as it hurts, like watching that and seeing it and, being down 0-3 and then coming back, it probably lit a fire underneath a lot of those players in the offseason into this season, right? So you're banking on that the leadership group, within the Oilers dressing room to kind of bring everybody on board with that. But I think it's full steam ahead. I think it's going to be another fun playoffs here in Edmonton.
Yeah, no, it should gear up to be really good. And they get Evander Kane back at some point. That's going to be big for their organization and for them on the on the ice, and what he can do, and be that unicorn that he is. That's going to
Mm.
be
The X factor, right?
yeah, it is. Maybe if he's healthy, a full health, Evander Kane last year in the playoffs, maybe they win the Stanley Cup. That guy is obviously his track record in the playoffs is pretty good too, and in terms of what he can do and how he can get the team going, and that intimidation factor too, that the unpredictability that he can have, just a lot of that will help out their process a lot in terms of that. So um we'll see where it goes there, but there'll be it's fun to see, good hockey. It's fun to see that the good teams kind of rolling, and at the end of the day too, some of the good stories too, like we have a media pass to the Calgary Flames, and just it's good to kind of see where they're at. Obviously, again, like we said earlier, that's a tough loss, but they'll rebound. And then even the Columbus Blue Jackets, right, with the Johnny
Yeah.
Gaudreau situation, both those teams are fighting for their brother that they lost, and
Yeah.
that it's a good story that I think both of us, I kind of had them. It's something about Backlund at the start of the year just struck me as like they're gonna get into the playoffs, and I'm a bit of a homer with the Flames. I'll fully admit
Yeah.
that, but it is good to see, and maybe not as surprising, but it's just awesome to see that maybe and we usually see this, Lolly, right? That we usually see one or two teams kind of we didn't have in, but they end up getting in, and they end up fighting through. And again,
Yeah.
maybe Washington was that team last year, and they got in. Yes, it wasn't the result that they wanted, but they learned from that lesson. You could say those 4 games. There's
Yeah.
guys that won that cup, but some of those guys, that was their first taste of playoff action, and they learned from some lessons. So it's gonna be interesting there. Is there any kind of surprise teams to you that where you're kind of watching and seeing from afar, and
Um,
obviously, yeah, we'll get to the Ratnan trade here in a second.
yeah, yeah. I think like I'm kind of just shocked at what's going on in Vancouver. I'm not gonna lie. Um, about a year ago, Josh, like they had, I think, 6 players at the All-Star game in Toronto when you
Yeah,
were there. And to think like a year later, it's like I'm actually shocked at how, just relationships within teammates can cause that. As much as, the Canucks haven't been talking about it as much, but I think Jim Rutherford came out with a statement recently saying that, the 2 players, it has caused a rift in the organization, in the dressing room. But yeah, that's been quite a surprise. I thought Vancouver would be learning a lot from, last year's playoff run, which I thought was amazing. I thought the team that they put together last minute before at the trade deadline, those Zadorov and some of the acquisitions they had were incredible,
yeah.
and it showed with that deep playoff run, and they pushed Edmonton to the brink, right? And I didn't have that. That was a complete shock. But obviously you wouldn't be able to keep the team, but you would hope that the players that went through that last year, kind of like how I said with the Oilers, right? Like they went through a very tough time, down 0-3, lost the Stanley Cup final, but that fire in them should be within the leadership group to kind of stimulate the rest of the team to get up to that level eventually. I just don't see that happening. Yeah, it just felt like it didn't happen with Vancouver at all.
It's weird. Like it's funny you say that, because out of all these interviews I hear, it's true. They had 6 guys at the All Star game last year, and no one's brought that up this season in terms of the other media guys outlets of interviews of being like such a contrast and a fall from having 6 guys there. Heiskanen just took a knee on knee from Mark Stone. He is on the ice as this Vegas Dallas game. That was not good. But yeah, it's hopefully Heiskan's okay. Looks like he's trying to
Yeah,
get off, but he is struggling. Um, but yeah, it's just interesting. And then Zadorov said the other day, like the best 6 months of his NHL career was in Vancouver last year. So
yeah,
like that's almost the same locker room that was there before.
yeah,
Like I know DeBrusque's a new player in, Desharnais, they brought some new people in, um but yeah, this story here in Vegas can be something interesting to watch. If
yeah.
people are watching this is Oh, it's not even a neon. Oh, oof. It's,
Neon knee, or what do you think? I don't
well,
have a team in
it,
front of me. I'm
yeah,
watching.
yeah. Stone lost an edge and he went down.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, actually, Stone looks like he got tripped by Rupe Hintz, and then he fell down right into Heiskanen's knee, and
Oh,
Heiskanen's knee bent, and he went off in distress. Dallas is on the power play here, but
yeah.
yeah, I don't think Stone's not noticed is known to be a dirty player, but that'll be something to watch as we're recording a lot at the moment that this game's live. So we'll see where it goes there. But Heiskanen is not happy at all. Trainer came up to help him get off the ice, but Colin Blackwell came out too, and Matt Dumba came out to help. But yeah, we'll see there. Sorry, lost track. But yeah, it's just interesting what's going on in Vancouver. And I think Rick Tocchet said today 90% of his time this year has been spent in terms of trying to build those relationships back up and try to get them where they need
Yeah.
to go. So, are those two guys got done or not? But
It's
yeah,
wild, man. Like I'm shocked. I'm genuinely. I think that out of all the teams this year, I'm quite shocked at Vancouver and how it kind of it's falling apart,
yeah.
and it's all because of the relationships within the team.
Yeah, and
And
it's tough because they were probably one of the favorites to come out of the Canadian teams to win a Stanley Cup. Like, if they probably have a healthy Demko last year in the playoffs, they probably get past Edmonton, and maybe it's
yeah,
them there. But now the Oilers have taken over that reign as being the team of that comes at it that could win, and the drought of the Canadian team winning the cup. And the Oilers are the Oilers are gonna be scary out. Like they're gonna get some players. They're gonna get a healthy Vander Kane. They're gonna get one more
yeah,
player. They're probably gonna get someone on the back end, and but yeah, we'll see what happens there. But
they'll
anyway,
be ready to go. I think
yeah,
I have no question that the Oilers will be ready to go come
yeah.
playoff time. I
Does
think
Vancouver get
they're
in?
gonna be dialed in, right? Like
Yeah,
it just I don't know, just seeing how like again Zadorov's like that was the best hockey he's played ever, right? And to have someone say that and then look at Vancouver's situation, it's like how can two like I mean, there's a level of professionalism. Obviously, I'm not in that locker room, Josh, but like I mean, there it seems to be a lack of professionalism or lack of respect.
yeah,
I think that's where everything breaks off, right? I think the second you lose that respect for anyone, it's very tough to come back from, right? And I think that's kind of what happened between Miller and PD there. And they're two very different players, two very different upbringings, two very different countrymen, right? One's from Sweden, one's from the U.S. Their playing styles are very different, and they're both exceptional at what they do. They both have hit 100 points, right? And they're very competitive. And it's just mind-boggling to think that this relationship wasn't able to get mended or brought to the same page. And I'm kind of like, I mean, I don't mean to put Quinn Hughes on the spot, but as the captain of the team, although he is younger, um, I'm looking at Quinn, right? And being like, if this is something that's, became an issue in the locker room and, what was his role in it, right? Because again, I'm not in the locker room, but that's a lot, for a young kid like that to deal with too, especially with, a veteran like JT Miller, who is so competitive.
yeah.
It's not an easy situation. I think, I mean, if maybe the captain was older, maybe this wouldn't be a problem. But I'm not saying this is on Quinn, but this is something that obviously grew into a lot larger than what the Vancouver Canucks had ever thought, right? And man, losing either one of those players is devastating.
Yeah, it's not going to be good. Like, because you don't really replace those kind of guys. Like, Miller's a Stanley Cup champion, and is PD a guy that you would go and win a Stanley Cup with? Can you win a Stanley Cup with a guy like him? But yeah, it's unfortunate that it's going on, and I hope that for their sake that they can turn this around and get it going because there's a chance that we could have 7 Canadian teams in the playoffs here,
And
and
that would be great hockey.
been a long time
Like,
since we've had that happen, and I think those guys could be those teams could really do some work here in terms of getting the cup back in Canada. Is that's somewhat of a drought. I don't look at it that way because so many Canadian players on Canadian teams that does come back
yeah,
a lot.
it does come back. It comes back. to Canada every year.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, it'll be fun. There's a lot of good hockey left to be played, and uh,
Yeah.
yeah, you were kind of talking about before. Let's move over to the Four Nations face-off. You were talking about something before. You guys got some cool initiatives, and you guys will be there, I believe. You want to kind of talk about that, and in terms of what
Yeah, for sure.
even just watching those games and how important they will be to kind of the best on best, getting somewhat back to where it was before in terms of seeing some of these stars play again.
Yeah, like I mean, this is the first time we'll see Crosby and McDavid on the same team
Yep.
ever, and that's that's pretty insane to say after 10 years of Connor being in the league, right? Like that's pretty crazy to think that they've never played on the same team. But no, really looking forward to it. As you know, Josh, like last year with APNA Hockey, our mandate is to grow the game of hockey in the South Asian community. And, from a grassroots level side, we do work with different NHL teams on their first shift programs to get more kids, more new families to get into the game, integrate the night, appropriately so they don't get hurt by hockey, right? Surround them with instructors and families that look like them. But I mean, equally as important to APNA hockey is the elite hockey players that are coming up, right? And offering them opportunities to connect with the NHL, the PWHL. So like last year for the NHL All Star Weekend in Toronto, we actually brought out Madeline Rye. She got a full ride scholarship to Western University, so she's actually playing there this year in her freshman year at Western. So we thought, bringing her out to the All Star Weekend, meeting girls like Emirates Mashmeyer, Sarah Nurse. Um, cool story about Emirates. It's so funny. We were at the outdoor skate at the Phillips outdoor. I think it's Phillips Square Arena out in Toronto, and the PWHL All Stars. They were having a little skate there. We brought Maddie out there to meet some players, and actually, I grew up with the Mashmeyer family. Actually, they're from I think they're from a small town right north of Fort Saskatchewan, but yeah, the whole Mashmar family. That's who I grew up with here in Edmonton, playing hockey academy and all that. And then I actually went up to Emirates and said, I just went up there. I was like, Emirates, do you remember me at all? I was like, I used to play hockey with you. She's like, took a little second, but she mentioned Lali. She's like, how could I ever not forget?
Yeah.
Right. So it was like a cool full circle moment. Like, I mean, the work that we do, running into players, like obviously we have mutual friends that play in the NHL. It's always great seeing kind of that first full circle moment. And, seeing Emirates there, and then I introduced her to Madeline and even just Maddie just being around the players, right? Because I mean, when I look at, me playing, growing up playing AAA here in Edmonton, I never had, organizations like Up in Hockey that, would bring me out to events, let alone any event. I didn't have anyone. It's just me and my dad, right? So to have an organization, as large as Up in Hockey and our footprint, now being able to, connect the elite athletes and bring them out to events and allowing, a girl like Maddie to meet PWHL players. She aspires to play in the PWHL one day. I want to be able to, as an organization, we want to be able to open those doors for these athletes, right? And get exposed to the professional level because if you see it, you can be it. I always have this one rule: you are the average of the five people you keep around you, and that's the same for an athlete: who you train with, what kind of events you go to, what kind of role models you have. So. That same theory is, applied in the hockey side. So this year with the Four Nations final, we've been uh, talking to the National Hockey League. We actually had four girls. Get this, Josh. Four girls from our community this year got Division 1 scholarships, which is incredible. And that goes from Cornell to Franklin Pierce University to Minnesota State. And you're seeing so many girls in our community. I think Boston College as well. So many girls in our community that are taking that next step. And right now, I do believe the girls are outpacing the guys, the South Asian guys, when it comes to university/college hockey. There's more girls right now playing at that level than the guys, which is amazing to see because 7, 8 years ago, when Upton Hockey wasn't around, there was obviously a lot of guys that are playing in the WHL, a little bit in university, and now it's just completely flipped where you see so many girls now with that representation.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be pretty cool. We got Cassie Campbell Pascal coming on the podcast this week as well, and definitely looking forward to what she has to say on the women's game because she was a pioneer in getting to where we got to and continue to get to. She's a special advisor. Where everyone knows her hockey resume. She works with ESPN and how like every which way to the sun in terms of like her pedigree and in terms of giving back to the game, but growing the game. And it's just going to be fun to have her on and to
Yeah.
talking about women's hockey. And like, we're seeing like there's triple A women's teams, and they're really really good, and we haven't revealed our players, our 3 stars of the month, but one of the 3 stars of the month is a female player. So it's in terms of just and we're going to reveal that later this week. But yeah, all the reports came in, and we got three great winners, and one of them's a female, and she's done a great job in terms of like her community work, her on ice performance, and positive team culture, and leading by example. So we're looking forward to kind of announcing that. But it's just cool to see that when you go to these games, they're in there, they're in the fight, like they're doing a good job, and it's good hockey. We've seen what the PWHL has been doing around the globe in terms of like North America here, or in terms of that. And it'd be interesting to see if the PWHL goes overseas too, to see what kind of
Yeah.
interest there is there in terms of getting some fan engagement like we've seen with the NHL. I wonder if that's a question I'm going to ask Cassie tomorrow, is when we see these two NHL teams go over there to start the season, will the PWHL be able to go? I know that's kind of their off season in terms of the way their
Mhm.
schedule works out, but is there a way of growing, cross branding the game together overseas?
Yeah.
At some point, that would be I think that would be pretty cool to see. And just it's good for the game, and
It
even
is amazing for the game.
more eyes
Yeah.
and ears on it, right? And what's your thoughts of the PWHL? I know you talked a lot about women's hockey there just in that last
Yeah.
little segment, but in terms of the PWHL and in the growth of minor hockey with women too.
Yeah. I think the first time, Josh, I guess like I gotta back it up like 7, 8 years ago. Like the first time I kind of got exposed to women's hockey was when the Indian national women's team came to Canada for Haley Wickenheiser's tournament. And like we donated money towards that initiative to bring the team over to Canada, and they actually ended up coaching some of the games for the girls. And I had no clue that even hockey existed out in India, right? Let alone women playing out there, right? And that was such an eye opener. And it kind of like got me thinking about domestically, like here in North America, like what are we doing, for women's hockey? And 7, 8 years ago, it was a very long time ago, and there was nothing really going on other than, obviously the Olympics, for women's. There obviously NCAA hockey, but there was nothing really super professional, not like branded the way that PWHL has been. And it's been amazing to see the growth. And I think from obviously a business background, I think from a business background point, Josh, it does make sense for the PWHL to be there, right? Like going to NHL games they're quite expensive, right? And this offers a great alternative entertainment solution, right? For a good cost. Like, I mean, for a family to go out to, and I'm not saying like PWHL tickets are super cheap either, because like getting the tickets are extremely hard because they're selling out so much. So
Yeah,
that's a whole other issue.
yeah,
I think they're selling out more than the guys, which is actually pretty funny, because I think there was a stat that I think Vancouver's game that they hosted, I think that was like the highest attendance all year. I think.
yeah. I
I
wouldn't
think
doubt it. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
yeah, I think there was a stat line, either that or Ottawa, but like not to say that it's cheaper, but to say that it actually fits in, because like as you know, everything has got so much considerably expensive. The cost of living has increased, right? And people still need to be entertained, right? And I think the PWHL at the right time, at the right moment, I think they came in at the right time, and to establish a league and to unify, all the female athletes, right? Because I mean, after NCAA and college, usually, the next route is, playing at, some certain sort of smaller professional leagues, right? Overseas as well. But there was nothing really here in North America that was like the staple, right? And I think the WNBA has done such a great job. And I think the PWHL just took suit right after that.
Mhm.
And the WNBA has been doing a great job at, filling in that gap between the NBA and its fans. And I think it's just another element, right? And I think the timing of it makes a lot of sense as well. Just with the economy, how it is, the cost of living increasing. And I think it's just great hockey as well, right? I mean, at the All Star, PWHL All Star game last year in Toronto, we were sitting there. I've never, like, it was packed, completely packed, right? Kids are cheering. So many. And the one thing I'll say, Josh, a lot of kids go out to these games,
Yeah.
right? I find like NHL games have gone very corporate. And I think they were talking about this with the Maple Leafs with the lower bowl. Did you hear about that?
Yeah. Matthews called it out, and
Yeah, and
we
it's
had a
like,
game the other day, and it was bedlam in Scotiabank Arena too for the
yeah,
PWL game, right? So
yeah, and it's like, yeah, the upper bowl is more where the real fans are at, but like when you go out to PWHL games, you're seeing so many families, kids come out, right? It's not corporate. And I certainly think there's a need for that gap, right? That for that market. Because I mean, I think it's the NHL, especially with the bigger teams in the NHL, like the Torontos, even Edmonton's getting up there, with corporate. But I mean, the Vancouvers, the New York Rangers, like the Boston's, like they are very corporate. And as much as that's good for the NHL team to always have that money coming in, but from a fan experience, you also want to have a little bit of juice when you go there. You want to hear the noise, right? So I think the PWHL is in a very good situation. I think it's inspiring quite a few girls, and I know in our community, it's inspiring quite a bit, right? I mean, it's a after NCAA, there's a path to play professional hockey league, make a living out of it, and further pursue those dreams of playing on the Canadian or the U.S. Olympic teams or any other country that they want to represent, right? So I think it's heading in a very good direction.
yeah, no, it definitely is, and they got the right people behind it and supporting the game and in the best way they possibly can. And I think it's going to continue to grow, and we'll see. Maybe the teams get more. There's 6 teams now. Maybe that turns into 10, or 12 as it goes. We know that the women's hockey is really good right now, and as it keeps growing, and I agree 100%. It came in. It started out the right time. It was good that they all unified together. It took a long road to get there, but it's there, and they're thriving in a lot of great ways, and it's good to see. And the salaries aren't too bad with them. It's definitely going to get better, and that's a good thing too. They started off pretty good in my opinion for them, and hopefully continues to get better, and then maybe they don't need kind of second jobs. Like the NHL players don't have second jobs. In
Mhm.
terms of growing it, I know a lot of it is with the CFL players. They do, some of them have second jobs, but maybe that's another thing to see and keep an eye on is the women's game in terms of that. Let's move back over to APNA hockey and kind of South Asian hockey, Lolly. We're what are kind of the communities that are meaningful for you? I know you guys were at the hockey day in Canada, the 25th anniversary. But how cool is it to kind of get out to those events? You guys do stuff with the Flames, the Oilers, all these other teams, but are you seeing an uptick in South Asian registration hockey in terms of that? And like, what are the ways to continue to grow that? I know you guys got your platform, and there's others in the city. Arjun has his, Dams has his in BC. They're everyone's kind of coming together. Yes, it's okay to have multiple different platforms. It's just like it is okay. There's multiple different podcasts, but
Yeah.
as we're putting sticks, gloves, skates, helmets in the right hands, and the passion for the game, and at any level, if it's ice hockey, if it's ball hockey, in what are ways in you're seeing, and again, come back to that, is the increase of registration higher than you ever seen it before, and if not, how can we get there?
Well, there's different ways. I mean, having different organizations that are promoting the game of hockey in the South Asian community Josh, is wonderful, right? Like the way that I see it is like I never had that growing up, right? So whether it be APNA Hockey, AZ1, or South Asian Hockey, or there's so many good hockey development coaches, guys like Justin Rye who run Kaivo Hockey out in Vancouver. He trains Archdeep Baines over the summer. Like there's so many good guys that are, and organizations that are growing the game. Like anytime you get in touch with a South Asian kid and you help them out and help their families out, you're doing something I never had growing up. So how could I ever, be mad at that? That is like that pumps me up, to be honest, because like that kind of stuff, those interactions are something I never had, and that's something I honestly that I needed interactions like that from mentors, from organizations, right? So if there's more of us, I think we're in a better situation than we were, 10 years ago, right? The more, the better. The movement is even stronger, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to see more kids get involved. And not just from a on ice perspective either, right? I've said this for quite a bit. Like, I mean, living proof of this is our social media content creator, Tanroop Singh. Tanroop moved from India to Canada at a younger age, and when he came over, he had no clue what hockey was. And he actually found when we started APNA Hockey, found one of our flyers on his car at the temple when we were doing our first hockey event with APNA Hockey back in 2017. But that's kind of the word APNA Hockey kind of got his interest in it. Started watching hockey. And then, he's reached out for hockey tickets. We gave him some tickets, kept following us. And, when he was over 18, he's a student at NAIT now, and now he wants to work with us. So last year with the Heritage Classic was the first time he worked with us, and he killed it, right? With bringing families out. We brought 20 different families out to the Heritage Classic from our community. And you can look at an example just like the Naru, right? Is he a hockey player? No. Is he from this country? No. But he's a huge fan of the game. He's working in the game. He's being exposed to the game, right? And if we can use that example as and say, yes, the game has grown, right? Maybe it hasn't seen overall an increase in registration, but from a fan perspective, and I know on ice as well from our community, I have seen growth, a lot of growth in the last 10 years compared to what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And with the grassroots level programs, obviously it's great for these kids to come in, try out hockey. It's subsidized. They get to try it out for 6 weeks. They learn how to skate in 6 weeks. I've literally seen kids crawl on the ice the first day. And then by the end of it, after the week 6, they're skating, right? And if they're able to skate and if they want to join minor hockey after, that's great. But if they don't, they know how to skate. It's like swimming, right? We always say, like, swimming is a very important thing to learn when you're growing up, right? You just got to learn it once and then you're good. Yeah. Same with hockey, right? We live in Canada. We are a winter country. And, all we do in the wintertime is play at the ODR. And we have a lot of friends, that play at the ODR. So, I mean, these kids that are coming new to Canada, when they go through these grassroots level programs with the Bauer First Shift, you're going to see that, they're integrating into the culture here, right? And they don't necessarily have to play at the highest levels or even play minor hockey as long as they become a fan of it. And it helps them integrate, right? I'll give you an example, actually, Josh. There was a kid out in Guelph, Ontario, and so he wears a turban. He's a younger kid. He actually went out to a Guelph Storm OHL game, and he realized there was a kid on the ice with a last name Sandhu, which is from our community. Zach Sandhu is from our community. He plays for the Guelph Storm. He noticed that, and this kid wanted to meet the player, Zach, and now they got a relationship. It's actually on our Instagram post. The kid is starting to play ball hockey now.
Wow.
He wants to play. He got into ball hockey, and he said his mom reached out to us. She's like, yeah, she's going to start skating. We're going to put him in skating lessons. That's all it takes. Sometimes you just need to see someone that looks like you. That's all you need.
Yeah.
That relatability, right? Because like when I grew up, like I didn't see anyone that looked like me. I felt alone, Josh, growing up, right?
Yeah.
All my friends are from hockey, but I felt very alone. And when you see organizations like APNA Hockey and all these, South Asian hockey, like the second they connect with the South Asian kid, that makes a world of a difference to them, right? So when it comes to that kind of stuff, like, I mean, it's a big community, right? Massive community. And the second we, are able to connect with these kids and show them that there is more of us, that's that special moment that, that makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Knowing that these kids are getting something I never had. And there's not just me doing it, there's others doing it as well.
That's it's remarkable, right? It's definitely and when you connect, that connection is real, it's genuine, and there's so many relationships that can be built and grow in the game. And it doesn't necessarily have to be them playing the game. It could be them reporting the game, talking about the game, just watching the game. But obviously when they feel comfortable getting on the ice and playing the game or getting on the floor or the concrete or wherever it is, that's it's gonna be it's pretty special to see. Is there any kind of big things you guys got coming up? I know the summertime is it's busy for you guys too, but what does APNA Hockey have coming up? And is there any kind of new announcements you guys kind of have that you're willing to share right now, or is there just a lot of things working on behind the scenes and you'll have some announcements soon? Where are you guys at right now?
Yeah, there's a few stuff we're working on behind the scenes for sure. There's definitely a lot of movement, a lot of meetings that are happening in different cities that I got to attend now.
Yeah.
But that's all kind of behind the scenes. We got something cooking up. But, for the APNA hockey side, like we're entering our fourth year with the Edmonton Oilers with the program.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy to see that, that we've seen over 300 kids, Josh, come through that program, right? New kids, Asian, South Asian,
Yeah.
right? I think the impact of that program has created new fans of the Oilers, new fans of the game, right? And this year we got 46 kids coming out. And it's amazing to see the growth, from year one to now year four. And, in the future, we're going to see more kids come out. But even this we just did the equipment outfitting with Bauer and the Edmonton Oilers at Fort Hall. It's just so great to see these kids come in, especially new families, right? New families that are from India and they don't know anything about about hockey. They heard about UPNA hockey. They come, they register, and then they see, myself, and they see Tanroop too, right?
Yeah.
Who looks like them, right? And then Tanroop's interviewing them and talking to the kids and the Bauer first shift guys. Huge shout out to Bryce and Schwartzy there, and those guys are awesome because like they teach the parents at each station how to put on the equipment. So they basically have a big hockey bag. They go to it's like Christmas. Like you literally go to each station, they size you up, they teach you how to put the equipment on, and then put it in your bag. Then you go to the next station, and then at the end you got Strudsy, Jason Strudwick, with the hacksaw, just hacking away, cutting the stick. But it's pretty cool, right, to see a former NHLer at the end and talk to him. And these families really appreciate it, right? I think the big thing with this program is the educational aspect of it,
Yeah.
right? Because when you go into hockey, it's a pretty daunting task, right? There's so many pieces of equipment. Like it's not like soccer where you just put on shoes and you have a soccer ball, or maybe some shin guards.
Yeah.
You gotta put on a helmet, elbow pads, pants, your jock, your shin pads, your socks. There's stuff that goes on top of your shin pads, like the tape to wrap it up. Like there's so many different elements, and I think the program itself, and it is going to be aired on a TV show where I can't talk too much about that, but eventually it will be aired. But we are doing a session with a well-known TV show that is going to highlight the importance of UPNA hockey, the first shift, getting kids involved and kind of integrate into the Canadian, culture out here. And I think they're going to do a really good job. It'll be airing next year. We're filming it this year, but it's going to be fun to be a part of that and kind of grow the game even more and be able to showcase kind of the work that we do because I think a lot of people are curious about what exactly do we do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, UPNA Hockey is a South Asian network, but it's a lot of moving parts within it, right? And as you know, Four Nations final is happening. The first shift with the Oilers is starting up in a couple of weeks, and then come this by April, I've been doing a lot of research on and talking to a lot of people about setting up a board of directors as well.
Yeah.
Right, these are conversations that I know that the UPNA hockey, Josh, for me has always been something that I could give back through, and it's my passion to give back because I never had that growing up. And I want this organization to be around for generations to come. And it's not just going to be Lali Toor. I need a team with me. So we're in the process of doing a selection for a board of directors, making sure we have the right people, the right team involved.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there. And it's just gonna continue just like the last 8 years. We're full steam ahead.
Yep.
Keep growing the game, and with different ways to fund it. But I think the big aspect is just seeing the number of athletes coming up. And we got to talk about Prab Buttle, the kid from Winnipeg, a little bit too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Give him some plug here. Like
Yeah,
yeah,
it's been pretty amazing to see his development over the last 2 3 years since I got notice of him. And he scored, I think, in calendar year, he almost had 90 goals in U15 AAA. And then U17, U18 in that calendar year. I think he almost broke Jonathan Tave's goal record that year, if he didn't already. But he just scored his first WHL game or WHL goal with the Brandon Wheat Kings last month. And that's another kid that's big body, 15 years old, I think it's listed as 6'3", 180, big boy. So he's gonna definitely be ready for WHL hockey. So no, very pumped to see him and his development. And talking to his father, Bali, and just seeing how dedicated he is as an athlete, right? It's really good to see And another thing is, Josh, like, with these athletes coming up, I've noticed they're so proud to be who they are.
Yeah.
And that's such a big hurdle for most athletes to get. Even myself, like when I played, I wasn't really proud of who I was, right? And I see such a just a mental switch on a lot of these South Asian athletes coming up. They are embracing who they are. They're not shying away. And to have that, in a kid like Prab, Arshdeep, and Arshdeep is, he's the best player in our community right now.
Yeah.
And for him to lead by example, all these all these athletes coming up, guys like Prab, guys like girls from our community, like Sia Gariwal, like Jaya Shippo, right, that are coming up, that he sets that precedent, right? And he's like, he reps it, and it inspires a lot of these, elite athletes coming up.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's funny because even Zane Perek, it's just funny the other day. I think it was even last night. They played against the Ottawa 67s, and when he scored and Michael Misa scored, they skated by the bench and looked directly at Dave Cameron, who subsequently obviously
Yeah,
cut those guys from tryouts and
yeah,
we're a part of Team Canada. So it's it's that swagger, but it's like the belief that those guys have in themselves in terms that they know they're going to be in fact players on and off the ice. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's okay to kind of show that kind of swagger. Look at we saw tonight in that Flames game with Anderson kind of mocking Tom Wilson. Like
yeah,
like there's nothing wrong with that in the game. It's okay to kind of show a little bit of
emotion.
emotion at times. But is there
Yeah,
anything
Zane.
else? Yeah, go
Well,
ahead.
I mean, you
Yeah,
mentioned Zane, and like, yeah, like Zane's been an amazing talent, right? Obviously, this year, with the World Juniors didn't really work out the way that we all thought it would. But again, these are moments, in his career that he's gonna learn from. Is gonna use this as motivation, and that's the best part about these athletes, Josh. Is like, you know what, like if I mean, I think this is just a life lesson in general. I think if politics are at play, if people get in the way of what you want to do, I think you don't fold, you don't give up,
yeah,
right? You continue doing what you're good at, and eventually everything will work out, right? No matter the resistance that you feel, the resistance is there because you're really good. That's why it's there.
it is.
And growing up, I didn't realize it, but yeah, I was a great hockey player. I felt the resistance, right? I felt it racially too,
Mhm.
right? But I got to look at it, and I was a great player. And when you're looking at athletes, and even in business, and like even in the work that space that we do, Josh, right? We always feel resistance,
Yes.
right? But we keep going,
Yeah.
right? Because this is our passion. This is what makes life so much fun, and we're not going to let few people, whoever has their own political agenda, get in the way, right? We're going to continue doing the great work that we do, and I didn't get to say this on the podcast yet, but like the three stars each month, Josh, like that impact that you're making on these kids, right? With connecting them to NHL guys like Duchesne, who are saying these three stars, like I I'm at a loss of words on how you're able to do this. I don't know how you do this, but
Yeah. Yeah.
what kind of you have a lot of strings. You clearly have a lot of pull, right? But like it's great to see like kids that are working hard in the community, working hard at the rink, being good good citizens, get that recognition from NHL players, from media members. I know it makes their day, and it inspires them too, man. Like the work that you've been doing, it's with the mental health event that we did in November.
Yeah.
It was amazing to see, right? And these are they're tough conversations to have, but I mean, there's a lot that goes on in everyone's lives, right? But that mental health event that you put on was amazing, right? From Elliot Friedman, getting to know Elliot even after the event, right? I mean, I know like that's invaluable for even like a guy like Dunru, right, who wants to get into media, right? And it was really nice for him to connect, and just the event, how many families came out, how many kids came out. There's some rivalry obviously with Kevin Lowe is always talking about, back in the day, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
And but like the overall event, like it just shows that, regardless of what we went through, you as a child, me as a kid, we don't want that. We want to promote positivity,
Correct.
right? That's who we are, right? Just because we went through a tough time growing up, that doesn't mean we want other people to go through that. We want to actually make the world a better place.
Yep.
And I you know, can't say enough, Josh, how good of a job you've been doing, with the kids, with the mental health event. I know there are going to be more events in the future, but amazing job. And I know I really wanted to say that on the podcast.
No, we appreciate it. It means a lot. It's fun to do, and it's one thing those kids get the video and they'll have that text message and of from Matt Duchene and that video forever, and then getting a hockey stick and just seeing their smile in their face and recognize that the on ice stuff and the school and the community is just quite amazing. So I'm excited that we can do it. It means a lot, and we're gonna keep press and play with that stuff. So
Yeah, no, and even bringing kids out to the practices with the Oilers, right? Like I know I've attended a couple of them,
yep.
and um, again, Josh, like I don't think as a minor when I played through minor hockey in Edmonton, I don't think I ever went to an Oilers practice. I know for minor hockey we played on the Rogers or back then Rexall ice, but I don't think I ever went to a practice. And the fact that you're able to do that and connect these minor hockey teams, for that experience, right? Because watching an NHL game versus watching an NHL practice, two different things.
Yep.
Like, and I'll just give you an example. When we were in Winnipeg, I think for the initial South Asian night, um, it was I believe it was the Avalanche on the ice, and like literally, we were doing some interviews. I literally told the guys like, "Hey, is it cool if I just sit down and just watch McKinnon and all these guys practice?" Like, I felt like a kid too, right? Because watching NHL players practice and the speed that they have and the scale you see during the practice, it's insane, right? Like, there's some players you wouldn't even, you're like, "Holy crap, this player is more skilled than the skilled player on the ice," right? But in the game, it's obviously much more tougher. But I mean, I was just sitting there. I saw McKinnon like go full speed, stop, go the other way, and it's like, oh man, if I was on the ice, he'd run right through me.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
He'd run right through me, no questions asked. But it's like just his stride, how powerful he is, and being able to see that. And even at this age, at the age of 33 now, like if I'm able to even just sit down and just watch a practice, like it just brings me back as a kid, right? And you want to be able to see that, the skill. And I think that those experiences for those, the minor hockey teams that you bring out, invaluable, man, right? Those kids take a lot from that.
Well, let's end on that note. We appreciate the kind words again, and it's great to have you back on. And it will not be 3 years again until you get back on here. So we'll make sure that it's
We'll,
not
we'll
like
get on before the wedding. I might have a
yeah,
bigger beard by then, but I'll keep it tame.
yeah, perfect. All right, Lolly, have a good one, and let's keep in touch, and maybe we'll catch up this week, grab a lunch or something like that. So.
Sure. Thanks, Josh.